Hello and welcome back, and thank you for your patience while we were fixing last-minute audio checks and video checks. And welcome to our third episode of Safari Planning. And I have the privilege today to introduce quite a few people when we go into Safari Planning Tanzania. But before we go into Tanzania, we actually are going to go back a few weeks ago, back a month. I know we are a few weeks late announcing the winner for the Botswana Sensations competition. Again, thank you for our partners for the Botswana Sensation competition, which was Natural Selections, Meno Akwena, Hideaways Lodge, Camp Kazuma, as well as Little Pan and Footsteps in Africa Delta Camp. Thank you for your patience. The reason why we're late is actually because I have been on safari. Yes, I've been traveling through South Africa, up north in South Africa, Marakele National Park. So, as I said, thank you for your patience. So, I don't want to drag it out any longer and just let you know that the winner of the Botswana Safari that included nights at all the lodges that I just mentioned, including charter flights between the lodges and transfers, is Sean Martin. So, Sean, congratulations. Well done. We're going to send you a little winning certificate, and you can contact our consultants and safari specialists for that win. And we hope you really enjoy your trip. And thank you, everyone, for entering. And for all of you that weren't so lucky with this competition, you do know that by the end of the session, we will be launching our next competition, which is a phenomenal safari through Tanzania, including transfers, meals, drinks, at all the properties that I'm going to introduce and that we're going to take you through today. And today I am joined not only by our very own product visit and general manager, Johan from Genuine African Safaris. Welcome, Johan. But I'm also joined by Philip from Kisura Kenzen. Philip has been in the industry for 14 years and is also based in Tanzania, in Arusha, Tanzania, which is the hub of tourism. I'm then joined also by Lakshmi, who, according to one of our members that's joined here, has the most phenomenal smile. Started in tourism knowing nothing about it, and now it's basically her first love. And I'm then joined by James from Lemala Ngorongoro, who joined the industry 25 years ago, back when he had hair, so he said. But we will get to know him a little bit more, and he's going to sell you his emotions. Basically, he's going to sell something that he's truly, truly passionate about. And maybe we're going to get to speak about why he was the smallest PE teacher in his region. And and lastly, we're joined by Ben. Ben is supporting us for all of our Tanzania bookings, Tanzania and Kenya safaris that Genuine Safaris puts together. He's based also in Arusha and has been part of the Genuine team for a long while. So I'm really looking forward to that. And Johan, you have put this phenomenal safari itinerary together that our listeners can win. And I would love to just go into the highlights of this itinerary, get to know the people behind the product and what makes the safari so special. And tell me why you chose, first of all, why you chose to be Tanzania to be the next country that we introduce to our audience, and why you chose this specific itinerary. Welcome, Johan.
Thank you, Katja. Yeah, it's really nice to be here today and going through this wonderful itinerary that we've got in Tanzania today. Yeah, I've myself traveled to Tanzania and East Africa a couple of years ago, and that's when I first started exploring this amazing country. And you know, once you travel to these different parks, you get that sense of feeling of this is where everything started. You know, the animals, just a vast amount of animals that you see. The sightings that you get is just unbelievable. And yeah, when I looked at this itinerary, we're going to look at some wonderful wow moments also once you're in the itinerary, because everybody once they go on a safari, they want to view some wow moments, and this itinerary definitely will have those moments. So on today, we're going to look at some of the highlights that we're going to visit. One of them is going to be Lake Manyara. We're going to go to Lake Manyara as National Park, and then after that, we're going to go to Serengeti National Park, and we're going to end off our trip at Ngorongoro Crater, which is just an unbelievable place to be at the end of our safari. So those three, I would really say, is the three highlights that captures the best that Tanzania has got to offer. And also, you're going to have some amazing wildlife sightings along the way. And we're going to go through that itinerary just now and also get some guests in to speak about these amazing places and some of the wow experiences that we're going to have along the way.
Thanks, Johan. So I would first of all, or second of all, love to welcome Ben. So if our background female wizard, Christine, could pop in Ben. Hi, Ben. Welcome. And thank you for joining us all the way from Tanzania. So just for the audience, we had a little debate in the background. Is it Tanzania? Is it Tanzania? So I got the local, which wasn't Ben, you will meet the local later, to confirm that it is in fact Tanzania. I needed to pause for a second just so I get this right. It's Tanzania. And then I remember when I traveled to Tanzania for the first time in 2008, I think, and I arrived in Kilimanjaro Airport in Arusha. And it was, and I really actually don't know, I haven't been back since. And it was this tiny airport, I think with one conveyor belt, I don't even think it was a belt at that stage. What is it like today?
Well, we have two conveyor belts now, and they redid the wooden floor, so it's a little bit nicer than it was back in the day. But it's a good introduction to Tanzania, because Tanzania is still rugged. It's still the real safari experience. It's not tarmac roads. It's not the luxury, or what some people would say is luxury. It's what things used to be like. And it's probably one of the few places where that still exists, without having to go deep into the jungle. So yeah, that from the very first experience arriving at the airport kind of, is a nice introduction. And then you've got that right into Arusha, again, with a small road, and enough traffic on it. But, it gives you that kind of segue into what to expect while you're going into safari.
So Ben, clearly you acted. Sorry, someone's background on someone's volume. You need to put it down. So Ben, clearly your accent is not local Tanzanian.
No.
Where are you from, and what brought you to Tanzania, and why did you stay?
Well, I'm American to start with, and about right now I don't think I want to admit that, but that explains a lot of why I'm no longer in the U.S. So anyway, yeah. So we won't go into politics, but way back in 2005 I left and went actually to Cameroon and started working there in wildlife and tourism development with the government. So I started speaking French, and that's kind of what messed up my accent a bit, and then I married a French woman, and so we speak French at home, which doesn't help with accent. And then the long journey, eventually I ended up in Tanzania. Well, it was a step through Kenya, so I was in Kenya building camps for a company, and then ended up in Tanzania, where we were headquartered, and decided to stay. So
okay, all right. Then let's go into traveling. And I know the first spot that Johan picked on this wonderful itinerary is Lake Manyara. And I want to know about Johan, maybe you can play in the presentation and the amazing images that you have for Lake Manyara. Tell us about Lake Manyara and all the myths that also occur about tree climbing lions, and is it really the case? And what can people expect to see, and when can they expect to see it?
Well, Lake Manyara is actually, it's a very nice park. It's one of my favorite parks because it's got a really good mix of wildlife. For bird people, which I like birds, it's got over 350 different species recorded there. You get everything from flamingos to pelicans to sunbirds, hornbills. It's quite a wide variety of birds. And so what you have is you've got this very large lake. It's not a very deep lake. It's a shallow lake. It's saline, so it's a saltwater lake. And that drives in the flamingos. Flamingos come there to eat, and then they nest in Lake Natron, which is the red lake, a bit harder to get to. But what happens at Lake Manyara is you get this like floating haze of pink. It looks like there's a reflection of pink over the lake, and it's actually the flamingos that are out there eating. And so that's one of the draws. The other mix. I remember one time when I went to Lake Manyara with my 3-year-old at the time, and we pulled into this little clearing, and there were baboons and storks and buffalo and giraffe and like everything in one spot. And it was kind of funny because the baboons were chasing the storks around, and the animals were actually interacting with each other. And we just sat there for like 3.5 hours. My 3-year-old staring at this clearing, on the lakeshore. So it's a really dynamic park. And so as you can see from the pictures there, you've got the escarpment on the right side. It's quite impressive. So the geology that's involved here also with the Great Rift Valley, it really opens up. And it's actually a small park. So a lot of people, they want to skip it, or they're recommended to skip it because it's small and there's not that much to see. But what you have in this area, in this tiny area, is you've got multiple different ecological zones. So you've got like the rainforest, that are actually groundwater rainforest, and then it goes out into shrub savanna with acacias, yellowback acacias, and then out into even more savanna. So in this small area, you've got a ton of wildlife. You've got hippos, you've got everything. It's really quite impressive. And then we get to the famed tree climbing lions. So one point to say here is Tanzania is actually one of the few places in the world where the lions climb the trees. The only other place I know is Uganda, at Merchants and Falls, or not Merchants and Falls, sorry, at now my mind's going blank on it. But so you can see these in Tanzania. And it's not only Lake Manyara, but Lake Manyara is the place where it got famed because when it's raining a lot, the lions, it can be mushy and lots of flies and stuff that bug them. So they climb up in the trees. Now, the areas where they are the lions tend to be very wooded. So again, it's not seen so often. And it's kind of the elusive thing that if you do get to see it, you're the lucky ones. And so, yeah, it's a story to tell when you do get to spot those tree climbing lions. And it was popped up. It's Queen Elizabeth National Park in Uganda that also has them. But I think that it's never been sighted down in South Africa, lions in the trees. I don't know. But so it's one of our claims to fame in Tanzania. So.
Okay, now we get it, because I did tell my team today, I said, I think there is something about this Lake Manyara and the tree climbing lines that it's either it's not really there or it's all over. I wasn't too sure. So I'm glad we cleared that up. So Johan, who are you bringing in? Where are guests staying when they explore Lake Manyara? So who are you bringing in next, and what's the lodge called?
Okay, so next, once we visited Lake Manyara, so we're going to have the itinerary starts off at Arusha, and then we make our way the next day to Lake Manyara. We're going to visit the park, and then after we visited the park, like Ben also mentioned, I've traveled with him a couple of years ago through the park and was quite a surprised that the beauty of the lake and the escarpment that drop on the side that you can see there from the lake is really beautiful views, and you also get lodges on that side there as well. So the views is definitely a big drawing card, and if you can see the tree climbing line, that's an added bonus. But just the flamingos, for me, if you're lucky enough, you can also see them in patches on the lake where you can just see this big pink area, and also a beautiful sight. So after we've visited Lake Manyara, we're going to go to Karatu. It's a little town further along on the way to Ngorongoro Crater. So that's quite a nice stopover once we make our way to Serengeti. So after we visited Lake Manyara, we're going to stay at Karatu Simba Lodge. And that's where we're going to bring in our next guest, who's going to talk about the lodge a little bit once we stay over there. what special experiences. And I've also heard they've got lovely views looking over the Ngorongoro forest.
All right, so we are bringing in. No, I got it wrong. I got it so right earlier. It's Lakshmi. Is that right,
Hi,
Lakshmi?
guys.
Yeah, Lakshmi. Very lovely to have you here. Welcome. And yes, you do have a very beautiful smile. So,
Thank you so
Lakshmi,
much.
it's your first live.
Yes.
Thank you for making us your first. I feel really privileged. And please tell us about your lodge. What's it about? And why is it a perfect stopover? And what can guests expect? What type of hospitality? Who are the people that are welcoming them? And what's the ethos at the lodge?
Well, Karatu Simba Lodge is ideally located between the Manyara National Park and the Ngorongoro Conservation Area, 30 minutes drive from each park, making it easy to visit both the wildlife destinations. And it's an easy drive from the international and domestic airport, and it's a perfect stop to start and end the safaris. Since there is no park fees and concession fee while staying at the lodge, guests can just relax at the lodge, enjoy the great views, the food, the accommodations, and activities that we offer. And there are a lot of activities that guests can do from Karatu, such as quad biking, zip lining, nature walks, Ngorongoro, like forest walk. Then comes in coffee plantation tours, hiking, so on. And these activities can be of great cultural experience to the clients. Apart from this, there is Lake Eyasi, where guests can interact with local tribes such as Hadzabe, the Toga, and Barabeg. And these tribes have till now maintained their ancient traditional way of life. And this can be a truly amazing experience for the guests. And all these activities can be done from Karatu Simba Lodge as a day trip. Yeah, and it makes a perfect stop before the safari.
So, Lakshmi, you talk about all the activities at the lodge. What's your favorite activity? Is it something active such as the quad biking and the zip lining, or are you more of a
Quad biking is for above 18 years of age, so not for families like with kids. But mine would be the local tribes, their lifestyle, their traditional way of living, their foods. I think that's my favorite part of these activities.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lakshmi, and also thank you for joining this
And
Facebook Live.
about the accommodation, sorry to interrupt you. And about the accommodation, this. I was just talking about the position of the lodge, but now it's accommodation. Okay, Karatu Simba Lodge is ideally located next to the Ngorongoro rainforest. So it has an amazing views, and the local farming is right next to the lodge, and clients would love the changes in the landscape from deep brown fields to green fields, and then golden harvesting grains. It's amazing to have to look at the views. And then accommodations are in 23 rounded cottages, and which can accommodate single travelers, couples, families, and honeymooners. Yeah, and that's it. We have all the amenities like pool, Wi-Fi, everything is available, and it's great. People would love, the clients would enjoy the lodge.
Okay, thank you very much, Lakshmi. So for this itinerary, tell me how many nights are clients staying at the property?
Okay, to start with, it should be one night to start the safari, and when coming back, it's the last day again. They have to stay. It's good to stay at Karatu before they go to the international flights for their flights departures.
Okay. So thank you so much, Lakshmi. So Lakshmi's company offered and sponsored 2 nights for this wonderful prize at this lodge, together obviously with exploring Lake Manyara National Park. So thank you so much for your generosity, and I'm sure the winner of this amazing competition will truly enjoy the stay and maybe even hopefully get to know you.
Thank you so much and giving me the opportunity to symbolize. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Johan, are we going after Lake Manyara to Ngorongoro, or are we going over to Serengeti? Where are we off to?
We're going to go next to one of the highlights, definitely, is going to be Serengeti National Park. So our next visit is going to be one of the highlights of the trip is Serengeti National Park.
Cool. So let's get Ben back in and let's see what he has to tell us about Serengeti National Park. I also know it's very well known for the migration. Let's maybe talk a little bit about wildlife migration. Why is it so famous? Again, what are the myths? What do people really need to know? What's maybe a little bit skewed in the media, and what can people expect? Ben?
Well, just to start with, we're at a very small park to start with, and now we're going to a very large park. So Serengeti itself is 15,000 square kilometers. So if you put that in perspective, that's bigger than 40 countries. The smallest 40 countries in the world are smaller than the Serengeti. So I think that's actually probably the first myth is people go to the Serengeti and they think they're going to see it all in like a night or two. And we have to realize just how big it is and that there's so much to see. Let's start with Central Serengeti, which is where we're going to be. And this, the biggest highlight is actually lions. So lions here, it's very, very dense populations of lions. I think because the last numbers were like 26 or 27 different prides in this one area. So if you're a lion person, this is the place to be. Kenya gets a lot of credit for it, but that's because they've done all the BBC videos up there. But really, if you want density of lions, Central Serengeti is where to go. The other thing, again, is the popularity and the natural wonder. There we've got some cheetah, which actually are also very nice, about towards eastern Serengeti and a little bit southern Serengeti. Because where you have a lot of lions, you don't necessarily have cheetah because the lions come and steal what the cheetah kill to eat. So, so cheetah try to stay a bit away from lions. Anyway, we've got the migration. So the wildebeest migration is famous. It's 1.5 million wildebeest moving for greener pastures. And probably somewhere about 500,000 zebra. So this is an annual migration that takes place. One of the myths is that this is something that's gone on since mankind started. It's actually not very factual. So what happened is there were, way back in the day, Italians brought in rinderpest with the cattle, and that actually killed off a ton of the wildlife. And so then what happened is the elephants came in and destroyed a lot of the forest areas, which created more grasslands, and then the wildebeest exploded. The numbers just were huge, and so they started eating all the pastures and needed to move. So, the migration actually really kind of started in the 20s and 30s. But it's now one of the wonders of the world to see, the natural wonders to see, because it's incredible. There's nothing of that size to compare. But that's a little interesting myth that can be broken. Again, you've got your normal wildlife that you find a lot of the African plains wildlife. So your gazelles, your impala, your not so many giraffe, but there are giraffe in Serengeti, a fair amount. Leopard are pretty good to spot. There are rhinos, but they are really hard to find here in the Serengeti. So you really gotta spend some time if you want to find a rhino in Serengeti. But yeah, it's just a vast area. There's tons of wildlife. I think Johan can say, after being around to a lot of different parks, the Serengeti pretty much blows people's mind at how much wildlife there is. So
yeah, Ben, I was there with you a couple of years ago. I've got this picture open here because, when people watch the movie The Lion King, they always think, where did the ideas come from? But I just got that sense of feeling when we're driving through southern to central Serengeti. There was these massive rock boulders, and you can see some of the lions. I was lucky enough to see some of the lions on those big rock boulders looking over the whole of the plains, the Serengeti plains. And you just get that feeling of the Lion King movie, and at the back of your mind, that song playing in your mind with the opening of the Lion King. So it was really special for me to see that. And I can see where they got that idea from the Circle of Life with Pride Rock and all of that, because it actually is those big rock boulders, like you can see there in Serengeti. So that was a very special moment when we were on a game drive. Then definitely something that clients will experience while they go on a game drive, is to see those lions.
Yeah.
Ben, thank you for that insight on that migration. That I didn't know that, and I see here some of our listeners, such as Nicole, also mentioned that it's really fascinating listening to you. So thank you. I guess one thing I'm a big believer in also talking about the feelings or the emotions that come with it, and what I've heard. So I haven't seen the migration yet, but what I've heard, it's quite the sound of these hooves on the ground is actually what is the most impactful when watching the migration. What would it be for you, Ben? What would you say?
To me, what blows my mind with the migration is when you go to sleep and there's nothing there. Your camp's just there, and then the middle of the night you start hearing noises and this and that, and the next morning you open your tent and the migration is on top of you. The herds, they split, they break up, they move around, but it's just so many animals. And I think that that is what I think surprises me the most, is when you go to sleep and it's just like you think, oh, tomorrow we'll go look for it and maybe we'll get lucky, and then you wake up and boom, as far as you can see, there is wildebeest. And it's just those numbers, imagine counting to 1 million. It's a ridiculous number of animals. So
wow.
Yeah, there's a picture, you wake up and you open your tent and you have that in front of you. That just can blow your mind, because you couldn't even find them. Maybe they were 25, 30 kilometers away when you went to sleep. So
wow, I've got just listening to this and thinking about it. Thank you, Johan. Where are guests staying when we go to Serengeti, and who are we having on in our live session next?
So we're going to stay in central Serengeti at Kisura, Kenzen, Serengeti camps, and it is really a true luxury camping experience. So we're going to bring in Philip from Kenzen Kisura camps, and he's going to talk a little bit more about the camping experience that they offer in the Serengeti.
Hello, Philip, welcome, and thank you for educating me earlier on how to pronounce Tanzania the right way. I appreciate your education. And Philip, tell us about the property and what guests can expect when staying with you, from a lodge perspective, but also from the people that host you.
Right. Kisura Serengeti Camp is located in central Serengeti in Seronera. It is, right now it's a permanent camp, so to speak, because it has been there for almost 6 years now. This camp has got 12 spacious tents, and they're all on wooden platform at the moment. The camp is unique by itself because it is in an area where you can have the high chances of seeing wildlife at a very, very close range or at a very short distance. As you know, as Ben has already said, that Seronera, throughout the year, it has a lot of animals, especially in the central Serengeti. When you stay in Kisura, there's a high chance of you seeing large prides of lions, quite a good number of cheetahs, and you can also spot some leopards as well, not very far from the camp. About a year or two, where Kisura is, there's a huge rock nearby the, I can say a copy, which is nearby the camp. And that's the place where a pride of lions used to stay there. Almost like 20 lions were staying there. And I'm told until now they are still there. I mean, they come in the evening. I mean, in the morning and leave in the evening, doing their hunting. So let me speak a bit about how do we take care of our clients. When our clients arrive at our camp, we offer them a warm welcome. We offer them refreshments when they arrive with wet towels, cold wet towels. It depends on the weather. If it is too cold, we normally offer them with warm wet towels and a very cold drink. And of course, they're being briefed about the camp and what facilities they'll find inside their tents. And thereafter, they're being told what is the dinner time, what will be the breakfast time, something like that. We do offer them, we do have not many activities, but I can say specific activities such as bush breakfast. We provide bush breakfast in a secluded area, a bit far away from the camp, just to give a client a kind of a bushy experience right in the middle of Serengeti, of course, with a ranger as well. We also provide bush lunch. We can also provide them with bush dinner. But these are pre-arranged based on the request of the client. Campfire, that's obvious. I mean, the campfire is there. Whenever we have clients, we provide them with campfire, and at the campfire where they stay, where they stay, we offer them different types of snacks, and the camp manager, sits there to entertain them and give them a brief history of Serengeti and tell them more about Kisura Serengeti camp, and also to get to learn from the clients what experience they had during their game drives, during their daytime during their game drives. So, in other words,
Philip, can I interrupt you quickly, because I have a lot of comments here on Kisura, and a lot of our listeners are already saying how much they love the camp. And I want to maybe just briefly explain to me what can a guest expect on a tent, because I just don't want customers or listeners to think, oh, we're having a dome tent with a mattress on the bed. How much luxury can they expect in your tent?
Wow. First and foremost, when they in the tent, there is a bed which is 6 feet by 6 feet by 6 by 6, and it has a mosquito net, and inside the tent there's an in-suite toilet and a bathroom whereby you can have your hot shower, and your cold shower as well. Previously, we used to use bucket shower, but nowadays we no longer use bucket shower. So we use water heaters, which are powered by solar. So you can have your bath at any time, at any moment, and it depends on what type of temperature you want for your water, so you can control it yourself. There is Wi-Fi in the tent. In the camp. You can download your images which you took during the day when you were doing your game drive. You can chat with your family. You can send your emails right inside your tent. You can also charge.
Yeah,
You
I
can
think
also charge your camera as well. I mean, your battery of your
that's
camera.
a great idea to guess that they are really entering a luxury camp rather than a normal camping experience. And I would like to ask our listeners, I mean, does staying in a tent like this appeal to you, or would you prefer staying in a proper lodge, more behind, secure walls? But I'm sure most of our listeners will say absolutely into the canvas camp. So let us know. I would like to hear from you how you feel about that. And Philip, I know for this itinerary you are sponsoring, if I'm correct, 2 nights at your beautiful camp. And I see you giving me a nod there. And again, listeners, stay tuned to how you can win this great competition. And thank you, Philip, for your most amazing generosity. And I see people here are totally 100% with us. Staying in a tented camp is what they want to experience in the Serengeti. And thank you for introducing the beautiful Kisura camp. And we're sure that our winner will enjoy this. And we are also certain to send more customers and guests to you who enjoy that adventure.
Thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Johan, we're going after this to the Ngorongoro Crater, right?
That's correct, yeah. Now we're going to enter the highlight of the trip, the Ngorongoro Crater.
Yeah.
It's a really an amazing experience to go actually down this very big crater, and you see all these secluded, it almost feels like a secluded island down there with all the animals, one of the highest concentration of animals that I've ever seen in a small area like that. And just when I got down there, from my experience, the first thing that I saw was like a hyena walking with a leg of a wildebeest in its mouth, just looking at me, just cruising past the vehicle. So that was like my type of first encounter when I got down there. But it will be good to get Ben back and just give us a brief overview of the Ngorongoro Crater, and then I'll let you know where we're going to stay at the end of the itinerary.
Yeah, so basically,
I'm just before you talk, I just want to say thank you for our listeners and their input here, how much they love the luxury camping, and also even guests who are brave enough to have all the flaps open. I'm certainly also a person that is, when staying in tented camp, is all about flaps open. Maybe we can have a quick vote here. Who's for flaps open, who's for flaps closed, while Ben tells us all about the intricacies of the Ngorongoro Crater and why it's really so spectacular, and what feeling one really gets when drives down into an actual floor of a volcano crater that is filled with wildlife.
Yeah, so the crater was formed, they say about 1 million years ago, was a huge volcano, and it collapsed on itself. And so it created the world's largest intact caldera, which is the circle around it. And the walls are about 600 meters deep, so it's really steep, and it's quite impressive as you drive down into it, or driving out of it sometimes can be a little bit worrisome if it's rainy and slippery. But anyway, the floor itself, it's about 260 square kilometers, so it's small, but it's a big area. And over the years, the wildlife kind of wandered into it and then just couldn't get out. So we've got our own populations down there that have, created their dynamics. So you've got jackals. That black-backed jackal there looks almost like a golden jackal. It's kind of a mix. So it's hard to, you start to see these diversities that happen. But anyway, over the time, it's developed its own ecosystem, and pretty much the only thing that can come in and out are elephants. Lions also, they'll climb up to the rim at times, but they like to be back down because that's where it's easy for them to hunt. So we do have a few prides of lion there. Again, we've got a lake that's on the inside, or a couple lakes, lots of hippos, and like Johan said, hyena. Like, that is probably one of the biggest things that impress people, are just the huge packs of hyena, the clans of hyena.
What kind of brown hyena?
What you see during the daytime is spotted hyena. So I think at one time there was a kill that I probably saw 45 hyena in one sighting, like right there. it's crazy. It's just, it's something that I don't think you'll find anywhere. Again, you've got a good variety of bird life there, bat-eared foxes, lots of interesting wildlife all together in one site. And the density, again, it's measured, they estimate that it's the most dense population of African wildlife in the world per square kilometer. So, it's just a place that you can't miss. Also, on top of that, if you're coming to Tanzania, this is your best chance to see a rhino. I don't know what the current numbers are. I think there are 24 rhino that are now on the crater floor. But there's a lot of movement that goes on with rhino, so it's hard to keep up. And also, of course, for protection of the rhino, the numbers are kind of always kept a bit vague so that it doesn't draw undue attention. But anyway, so that's the impressive side of the crater. It's also high altitude, so it's quite a good view in the morning. Nice and cool. A lot of people, they think, oh, I'm coming to Africa, it's going to be hot. Well, guess what? The crater, you better bring a jacket and some trousers because it's cold in the morning.
Yeah, that generally in South Africa, right, or in Africa, when you travel on safari, people forget that it actually can be really, really cool, especially in high season. So anything between June and end of September, October, it gets a bit warmer. Ben, sorry, actually don't know. So I'm really also just asking out of interest. Are there any? You said the numbers of rhino. People don't really talk about it. Are there any anti-poaching efforts done in Ngorongoro Crater by Tanzanian national parks, or
actually, this is probably the best surveyed area. So they've got actually the heat sensing cameras and stuff. They really monitor this area well, to the point that we're not allowed to come out of the vehicles even if you have an emergency side stop, and they might catch on camera going for a potty break. So yeah, this area is very well monitored for anti-poaching. It's definitely well taken care of in that particular area.
And Ben, one of our listeners, Kevin, is asking whether they also arrange game walks in the crater.
Not in the crater itself, but there's actually a crater that's next to the main crater that you can actually do a walk down, and there's also a crater rim walk. So one of the interesting things about the Ngorongoro Conservation Area is that it's not just wildlife, it's actually people also. So this is an area where you also have the Maasai tribe that's living in the area. So you will see people around and cattle. Not on the floor itself, because that's not allowed, but around the rest of the conservation area. And yeah, you can organize walking safaris on the crater rim and in various other parts of the conservation area.
Okay. Mufeni, you're asking here whether this trip we are presenting is in and out of the country. That's right. So you fly into Tanzania and you fly out of Tanzania. So it doesn't combine any other destination, which obviously for current travel, if you travel during our COVID era, is quite handy, as you don't have to worry about any transit countries and your COVID tests. Sorry, Matt asks as well. Sorry, Ben, you're being bombarded with questions. Matt asks whether there are any flights to view game over the crater.
Well, there's not particularly flights that do it. But if you are flying in and out of Serengeti, you fly over the crater typically. So oftentimes you will see from the small aircraft, you'll see the crater itself. There's not ballooning that happens in that area, unfortunately. But just from the crater rim itself, actually, the viewpoint, you can see wildlife from there with a good pair of binoculars. So yeah.
So no hot air ballooning. So there goes a business idea for you, Ben. Johan, where are we staying? We're staying at Lemala Ngorongoro, and I believe we have James, who I introduced earlier as that he, when he started in the industry 25 years ago, he actually did have hair. And I think he also really wanted me to mention that he is working for his wife. Is that correct? I get a big thumbs up. Hi, James. You are on mute, so please unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Cool.
There you go.
Afternoon, everybody. First up, I've got to say, this is a bit unfair. I've got 7 camps, and I'm only going to get away with talking about one. And that's a little bit like having 7 kids and someone asking you what your favorite one is. So I'm going to try and make it simple. I'm also going to set myself a challenge. So I'm going to set, I think I've got 5 minutes to talk. So I'm going to set this and see if I can nail this in 5 minutes, because I've got an awful lot to say.
Okay, I shall shut up for 5 minutes.
No. Interrupt as much as you like. So first up, I'm going to be talking about something that we've come to call the spirit of Lemala, because we firmly believe that Africa is all about people as much as it is about wildlife, that people come to see animals, they leave having fallen in love with the people that we have here. So the spirit of Lemala is really, really important to us. We want to walk the talk when it comes to looking after people. We also want to make sure that they have what they call it the best experiential options that they can. So I'm not really going to talk about what the thread count is, what the food is, what kind of bathrooms and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to talk about the stuff that people do, and I'm going to restrict it to the sundowner experience we have, the walks that we operate, and a very special thing that we do down on the crater floor, which I think, it's an overused word, but I think is pretty close to unique. So, number 1, sundowners. Sundowners in East Africa are a East African tradition. They go back over 100 years. They stem from the idea of colonial Brits coming out here and thinking that if they drank enough gin and tonic, they would escape malaria. By the way, it's not true. You'd have to drink a whole truck worth of tonic water to get enough quinine in your system. But it was popular enough an idea. I live by it. If I can turn the camera down around, it's actually 6:30 here. So sorry, it's almost 6 o'clock. So the second thing is, like, we are slap bang on the equator here. We're about 180 kilometers south of the equator. That means 2 things. 1, we don't get summer and winter. We get dry season and rainy season. So we don't have those big variations that we can see in other parts of the world. We also are blessed with a sun goes up at plus minus 6:30 every single morning of the year and goes down at 6:30 every single evening. So I know exactly. My inner clock tells me, Johan, when that first gin and tonic should be hitting my blood screen, for medical reasons only. So at 6:30, we're all back in camp, or we're at a pre-chosen spot where we can sit down, pour ourselves a drink, and watch the day end as it should do, quietly and calmly and with a load of beauty. Now at Lemala Ngorongoro, the actual whole camp is based in a sacred grove of acacia trees. Now I call it a sacred grove. It's an Abyssinica acacia grove there. It's on the western side of the crater, which means that it's more sheltered from wind and from the cold. The light through the trees casts a beautiful light at the end of the day. We light a fire, and we're blessed. We're allowed to use kuni, firewood from the local forest, which is a delightfully slow burning, relatively smoke free, but atmospheric smell that we light in front of the camp, and we watch the sun go down there. For signature drinks, as I say, quinine has always been really important in East Africa, so the gin and tonic is a quintessential and a staple. For those people wanting to be just a little bit more adventurous, we also do the hot chocolate with amarula, which kind of mellows the end of the day. My personal favorite, I'll always look for an old fashioned, so a whiskey-based cocktail, simply because at 8,500 feet here, it does get chillier in the evening, which is why this is the only one of our camps which actually is heated at nighttime, and where we have, let's call them European thick duvets, to counter that sort of the chill at the end of the day. We love to serve local food. We buy almost all of our food within about 5 kilometers of the camp. One of the staples that we like to present to people, just to surprise them a little bit, is we do a lovely baked ugali. Now, baked ugali is very similar to a South African pap, made out of white corn. We bake it, then fry it and serve it with a piquant, with a slightly spicy sauce to go with it. Because we're being a little bit posh sometimes, we describe it as a fried polenta dish, because Europeans and Americans love the idea of polenta, and white corn grits don't appeal so much to them. We do that through the end of the day. The fire is lit by our local Maasai. We're blessed here. 85% of the staff at Lemala Ngorongoro are from a village no more than about 6 miles away. So we have two gentlemen there, Isaac and Dennis, who do our walks and light the fire and do the talk about the local Maasai and how their lives have evolved. These guys have worked for us for 15 years since the camp was first built. So we like to end the evening with a nice calm sunset, sundowner, some nice food before you go inside and have your, hopefully, what I would describe as a gourmet dinner in a tented camp. If we go to something perhaps a little bit more exciting, we offer 2 walks from camp. One of them is to Oromoti, which is another smaller crater outside the camp. That's about a 3-hour walk. It's escorted by one of these 2 Maasai, Eric or Dennis. Those are not their real names. Their Maasai names are a lot longer and more difficult to pronounce. But they're particularly popular when guiding for this 3-hour walk and this 1-hour walk, which we take people from our camp in a slightly circuitous path down to the rim of the crater, so we can have a private viewing down to the crater floor. As I say, both these guys are from the local community. We look after about 6,000 to 7,000. It's a moving number because the Maasai are itinerant people. They're not based permanently in one location for the entire year. Especially the younger males tend to come and go. But we provide education and clinic facilities for somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 people. And if anybody's interested in coronavirus, we haven't had one single case of COVID in that community. We also recycle all the plastic water bottles that people dump in the Serengeti into school desks for the local school. And believe it or not, in fact, the floor that you see with the dining room is made completely out of recycled plastic water bottles.
How
All
do
the
you
water.
do that, James? Sorry for
we've got some very, very clever Irish friends of ours that melt it down and produce plastic blocks that can be cast. It's not high quality produce. You can make fence posts, flooring. You can make desktops and desk seats. They still have metal chairs and sort of legs to the tables and chairs. But the desktop is flat and workable for, those old-fashioned desks you have where you got 2 kids sat next to each other with a inkwell in the corner. That's what we manufacture for these guys. We've actually banned plastic water bottles ourselves, but a lot of guys that drive in are provided by plastic water bottles by their booking agent. So we take them off their hands and turn them into something useful, which is kind of cool. I should also say
that's saving the world one plastic bottle at a time. Thank you.
A lot more than one, I promise you. There's a couple of. I think it's about 600 per desk.
Okay.
600 full liter bottles.
Quite scary how much we use, right?
It is terrifying. And just to reassure you even further, in our tented lodges we have reverse osmosis. And our reverse osmosis actually provides water to all of the camps. I'm running way over time.
Yes,
I should say that all the walks are escorted by an NCAA, that's Ngorongoro Conservation Area Authority ranger who is armed, because there is wildlife walking around out there. We do have a lot of buffalo and the occasional elephant very close to us. Last thing, if you'll indulge me, on the crater floor, we do something which I don't believe anybody else does. We offer in a private campsite, a private picnic site rather, a full catered hot meal. So rather than a cardboard box, by the way, we don't do cardboard box. We actually, our meals are served in banana leaf boxes that are out of the local village. But we can do a full catered meal with hot food. In order to sell you this or any client, I want to tell you a story from about 5 years ago. I had a major Italian CEO down there that looked at me And he was very Italian. He had his hands all over the place. He was talking to this whole family. He had 3 generations of his own family that he'd paid for. And all of a sudden, he went quiet, having been the noisiest man on the planet. And I looked at him and I thought, what the hell have we done wrong? And about 5 minutes later, he beckoned me over. Like, James. Okay, what have I done wrong? He said, this is amazing. I said, yeah, it is. I fully agree. This is one of my favorite spots on the planet. He goes, no, you don't understand. Right? Okay, what don't I understand? He said, I'm in a restaurant serving me a really good steak with a really good bottle of, I think it was Canoncock Cadet, really good bottle of South African red wine. I could be in any restaurant anywhere in the world, and I can afford any restaurant in the world. But look at me, there's no walls. I can't even see the kitchen, and yet there's 3 giraffes and a zebra over there. What did I do right that I could treat my family to have this experience?
Oh, wow.
Yeah? How lucky am I to have that? Teardrops. It really hit me, because I think if you could bottle that, that is what the safari life should be, and that epitomizes the experiential and what we hope to create through the spirit of Lemala. I did go over, and I'm really sorry. I'm usually better than that.
You are, it's my privilege to have listened to you talk and explain what your product is all about. And honestly, James, congratulations on the stuff that you do with regards to being eco-friendly, with reverse osmosis, of course, filtering of the water, but also using the plastic bottles for your camp's floors, as well as building desks. I mean, that is...
It's all down to my wife and the fact that we have an exco with 4 women and 2 men, and the 2 men, believe it or not, are really quiet.
I shall not comment on this any further before I dig myself a hole. So, James, I know on this itinerary that you've put together, or that Johan put together, you're sponsoring one night. Thank you very much. I'm sure our lucky winner will love this. At the same time, I see we've had requests of honeymoon packages for the same itinerary, as well as family rates for the same itinerary. We'll be working on these and launching them. And I guess for anyone who wins this, I would even recommend spend a little extra and stay another night or 2 at Lemala Camp, because by the sounds of it, there's quite a few extra things you can experience. But also, if you enjoyed listening to this, if you enjoyed listening to Tanzania and to all of our guests, please feel free to contact us, and we tailor make an itinerary. And right now, most likely also with some good special deals, welcome you to the safari camps, and get in touch with us. So, James, thank you very much for your time. Thank you also for your generosity. Thank you how you run safaris. It's an inspiration, and we at Genuine make sure to support people like your businesses and run our safaris in a meaningful way. And we will be launching this competition where you can win the safari by tomorrow. And for anyone who has missed it, because I see people are like, who's the Botswana winner in the comments? I did mention it in the first few minutes of our live. The winner is Sean Martin, and we will email details about this. We will also post this again tomorrow on our Facebook page. I want to thank again, Johan, thank you for putting this together. I couldn't have done it without you. Well done. I want to thank Ben. I've learned a lot tonight. I'm sure so has our audience. It's been amazing listening to you. And maybe we can do some more in-depth Tanzania stuff going forward, because it's been really, really lovely. And thank you also for Lakshmi. I know it was your first Facebook Live. I hope you enjoyed it. And Philip, of course, thank you for all the details on your camps. And I hope you see you guys next time. Congratulations to the Botswana winner, and do join our competition to win this amazing Tanzania safari. Remember, Tanzania is open. You can fly there. You can travel there. I had a few agents telling me that had their first guests in Tanzania, their first guests traveling since March. So we are all ready to go. Wake up out of your COVID coma and come and travel again, because it's so much fun. And thank you, everyone, again. And I hope to see you soon. Thanks, Johan. And
Thanks a lot, everyone.